great swings for Florida.
Now, Ryan, do you know how hard it is to hit a triple? Because it is extremely hard. Not only do you have to supply the amount power, but you have to be able to place it perfectly. But that's how special Cheyenne Lindsay is. So much power from that left side, able to put it in that right field gap and just go speed around the bases. Just that special player at the bottom of the lineup for the Gators.
And on the flip side, the North Florida Ospreys, Paige Fent, the catcher for North Florida, had a solo home run yesterday in that game as well. Again, she's going to have a good swing tonight as well.
Yeah, not a lot of offense for the Ospreys last night, which is a little odd because they have a lot of power at the top of that lineup. But Paige Fent being able to make the adjustment and be able to get some type of offense late in the game is what that type of momentum they need to carry over tonight.
A 24-game on-base streak going back to last season for Fent. We take a look at the starting lineups for the University of North Florida, still looking for their first ever program win against the Florida Gators. Kayla Harper will lead things off. McGorry not playing second base tonight. She's moved into the DH spot. Some of that you don't wonder if that's trying to rest up her shoulder. She went through injury problems last year and wasn't able to play the infield the entirety of the season. And Fent, who we just talked about, will back clean up for the Ospreys. Natalie Lugo for the Gators is the pitcher. Now in her 5th season in orange and blue. Francesca, what can we expect from her?
I mean, when you see someone like Natalie Lugo come into the circle, I see a senior veteran who has had a lot of innings in this Gator uniform. She had 1.74 ERA last year. Cut down a lot on her walks from the year previously, but normally you're going to see her hit in that mid-60s, a curve, a backdoor. She has this incredible changeup that she's able to utilize, mix speeds, and really keep batters off balance.
Her last start was this past weekend in the T-Mobile tournament against Villanova. Pitched all 7 innings, only gave up 2 hits, no runs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts in the win for Lugo. As we mentioned, Kayla Harper will lead things off for the Ospreys. Beautiful night in Gainesville. Good crowd on hand to watch this one. 81 degrees. And we're underway as the first pitch goes to the backstop at exactly 6:03. Kayla Harper, a junior, originally from the state of California. Went 1 for 4 last night, had a single in the 5th. But got left on when McGorry popped up, and that was one of the problems for North Florida last night is they were able to get some hits off of Lexi Delbray, the Gator pitcher who got the start yesterday, but just couldn't get timely hits in one of the biggest moments. They had second and third and couldn't get them home. 1-1. That's a strike. Timely hitting. That's really the thing you hear over and over again about teams that are successful at the plate.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, that's exactly when you're supposed to come up with those clutch hits, is when you have runners in scoring position.
That dips low. The count's even at 2-2. Kayla Harper was an ace in all freshman team selection last season. He's been an anchor at the top of this lineup for the Ospreys. The 2-2. Count will run full at the first at bat of the day.
And that's a pitch right there that Lugo is trying to get Harper to chase on, trying to get that first strikeout of the game. But you need to try to get that ball to leak in just a little bit more if you're going to try to get a chase.
Payoff. And Harper takes ball 4, so a leadoff walk for the Ospreys. UNF in yesterday's game in the opening frame had a 2-out single that got a runner aboard, but weren't able to score that runner. And that will bring up the aforementioned Kayla McGorry. Played second base last night. Mentioned at the top is in the DH spot. And the righty takes strike 1. McGorry is somebody they want out there defensively. She was a defensive player of the year as a freshman. Wasn't able to be out there last year, and they want to be able to have her as much as possible this year. And that'll move it 0-2.
Yeah, just being able to get her in the lineup and stay in the lineup any way possible is going to be huge for UNF. They moved her over from short to second because of that injury. And it's a strong throw from shortstop.
Oh, 2. Wilkie can't frame it. First ball. McGorry, team's leading hitter from a season ago. Went 0 for 3 last night against the Gators. Ended a 5-game mini hit streak. 1-2 is bounced to Eccles. Will get the lead runner for run. Turn to first. Double play. So just like that, 2 outs on the board.
Well, we talked about how important it is to be able to trust your defense, and that's exactly what we see with the Gators right now. You give a lead-off walk, but then you have your defense to back you up with the sureness of the third baseman, Eccles, and of course Hannah Adams at second. So just like you said, maybe you feel a little pressure, get yourself into a little trouble by starting this game with a lead-off walk, but you have that strong Gator D behind you to back you up.
Brings in Shannon Glover with 2 gone. For Florida, just their 3rd double play so far through 11 games and change. Glover has reached in 8 of 10 games coming into tonight. And first pitch swinging for a foul. This UNF team is off to its tied best start in school history. 2014, they started 8-2 as well. The Ospreys feel very confident. A lot of returning pieces from last year. Added 5 transfers. There's only 1 true freshman on this roster for North Florida. Bounced right to first. Wallace tags the bag, and that will retire the side. So North Florida sends 3, and that's all they get. A double play from the Gators sends us to the bottom of the first. Florida to the plate when we come back. Have met this week. Ryan Urquhart, Francesca Nan. Gators coming to the plate here in the home first. And Francesca, this Florida team offensively, a lot of singles, a lot of speed, and they've gotten it done with the OBP, and a lot of that from Kendra Falvey.
Yeah, what a strong freshman that you have right at the top of that lineup that you're able to place in that top of the lineup spot to really kickstart things for your offense.
Kendra Falvey, Coach Walton said some of the best speed we've ever had here. 11 for 11 stealing bases through 11 games.
You know, I don't always love to agree with Coach Walton because he's always right, but I have to agree with him there. I've never seen someone so speedy in a Gator uniform.
I'll move it 2-1. She's among the team's leaders in extra base hits, and a lot of that, Francesca, is because of her out-of-this-world speed. Can turn singles into doubles and doubles into triples. 2-1. Falvey softly hit out to shallow left field, and it's the first base hit of the game. Falvey's aboard.
And, you know, she's not just your prototypical slapper. When you take a look at her bat path, then you can see how she's able to get her hands so quickly to balls just like the one she just did.
Gators starting lineup. You saw Falvey leading off. Hannah Adams and Wallace also scheduled in this inning. This is such a stacked lineup, Francesca, that really some of the biggest boppers are at 4 and 5 instead of at 3 and 4. That's how much speed and talent they got. We've seen this a lot through 11 games, and the throw ricochets away. It's covered up by Harper on the back end. But Falvey, her 12th stolen bag of the season.
I mean, really, it's no surprise that she is taking off right on the first pitch. We talked about her crazy speed, and of course she's going to go right away. She hits that cliche that every single will automatically be a double.
Adams puts down a bunt, third base side, hit pretty well, no chance for the throw. And North Florida is cornered with nobody out.
And that right there is something that Hannah Adams did not have the luxury to do last year. Last year, Adams at the top of this lineup was relied on heavily for home runs and gaps. But now that she has the speedy Kendra Falvey at the top of the lineup, she's able to read the defense and drop this bunt down and surprise the third baseman Annette there. And That is the Hannah Adams we knew when she was a freshman, a sophomore. Really stepped up last year when the team needed more power, more production from an RBI perspective. But now that she has more support from Falby and from Wallace behind her, she's able to play some small ball.
Skylar Wallace, the transfer from Alabama, went 1 for 4 last night, knocked in a run for Florida. Comes into this one on a 5-game hit streak. Runners on the corners and nobody out for Florida. An opportunity to get on the board early. And Adams is going to go for second. They don't throw. Got fooled on that last night when Florida sent a runner from first, and they went to third, threw it high, and it brought in a run. So no throw there. It's second and third now. And Wallace takes. She's currently tied first in the SEC. Wallace is in hit by pitch, and there's a little bit of an art to that. Florida fans have seen that over the years. You think of the Sophia Reynosos of the past. And the 1-1 is in for strike 2.
I've always wondered why that is. You know, because there are a lot of friends of mine who say, you guys just try to get hit. And I'm like, who tries to get hit? I try to hit the ball.
Right.
But if it's in my way, then of course it's tough.
It's just a little bit high for ball 2. Well, for hitters, it's a thin line to walk because obviously you can't do it intentionally. But sometimes it's just the natural way you're positioned in the box or something to that effect. Gators trying to get some early runs in the home first. 2-2. Wallace fouls it off. Coach Walton said about Wallace, long, athletic, and great strength of arm for Florida on that infield. Said it one of the highest athletic ceilings, excuse me, they've ever had. And that'll run it full. A lot of long at-bats early on. Everybody's still feeling each other out here in the opening frame. Payoff is sent sky high into shallow right center. And Falby starts to go from third. The throw is well on time to keep her at third. And it'll be the first out of the inning.
I love the crowd reaction there. All of them took a sigh of, oh, why are you not sending Falby because of how fast she is? But what a strong, productive out for the pitcher, Aarons, there. Having some trouble early on in this inning, but to be able to produce the first out from that number 3 hitter and as an easy out to try to minimize this damage is huge.
Brings in big hitter Charla Eccles. Ball one off the plate. Got to be careful pitching to number 4. The All-American swinger for Florida. Haley Aarons in the circle, by the way, the reigning ASUN pitcher of the week, had a 3-0 weekend last week. Not allow any earned runs, 18 strikeouts over the JU UNF Invitational. Pitched 12 1/3 innings over the doubleheader against Michigan State, got both wins. A twist in tight to Eccles for ball 2. And that's an absolute marathon to go 12 1/3 over a doubleheader. And she's only a junior. The coach said pitching well beyond her years. This is for ball 3. It's hitter's count for Eccles. There's Coach Walton, his 17th season with Florida, 20th overall as a head coach. And that's ball 4. Gators have him loaded. So this is an early opportunity for Reagan Walsh, who had a grand slam against Jacksonville University on the road just over this time a week ago. And this is going to prompt a meeting in the circle, and Florida will get a chance to chat as well. That is Coach Marcy Higgs for North Florida. And if you're her, what are you communicating to Haley Aarons right here?
I think you're just trying to reset the intention of how they came into this game. You know, she had mentioned during the fall she saw some weaknesses in their composure, being able to keep that type of poise and being able to respond and make big outs in moments like this. And she feels like they were able to really close that gap from fall to now in season. Now that became exposed a little bit more yesterday, and that was something she mentioned that she was a little disappointed about. So going into this game today, I think she's trying to make sure that they slow down the Gators offense, even though Gators are starting this real quickly. So just trying to settle that intention down.
And first pitch, she got hit. That'll bring in a run, and the Gators are on the board in the home first.
And we just kind of talked about how hard it is to try to get out of the way when those pitchers are coming right at you. And that is a great example, as you saw the freshman Walsh. You see her get set. Take a look at this. She gets set, and that's just a natural trigger. She doesn't go to swing at it. She's deciding, should I swing, should I not swing? And it cuts and it comes and gets right on the inside of that forearm. So even though it might look like, hey, she's attempting to swing at it, that's just a normal trigger that happens.
Brings in Cheyenne Lindsay, who we mentioned in the open, had 2 triples against this team last night. Only the 4th Gator ever to do it, as the first pitch peers off for ball 1. The last to do it was Michelle Moultrie against Utah. That was in 2011.
Don't make it seem like it's that long ago, because I played with Michelle Moultrie.
1-0 is lifted softly into right, and a great catch from Turgo. Adams will tag from third and trot home easily, and the Gators extend the lead 2-0.
And that was going to be a tough catch for any of those outfielders out there, but Turgo coming in so aggressive, being able to come up with that out, that could have been extremely dangerous and definitely would have scored more than 1 run. You see Cheyenne just turns on this, and Turgo laying out, being able to collect that out, and heads up play from Hannah Adams at third base. No matter what, if that ball drops or if she catches it, you know you score easy, so always tag up at third.
Emily Wilkie steps up for Florida. Came off the bench last night, went 0 for 2. The sophomore out of Georgia. So the Gators with 2 on and 2 out after the sac fly from Cheyenne Lindsay. Emily Wilkie had 1 hit over the T-Mobile tournament last weekend, a couple ribbies. That comes in way off speed for ball 2.
Just a bit outside. Yep, only 1 per inning allowed. Come on, 1-8, here we go.
2-1, hits the outer black, 2-2.
You are left eye dominant.
Aaron Zayson, all freshman team selection. Finished first in games started, 5th in innings pitched last year, and led the team in ERA. Gets the nod on the road today against the number 4 team of the land. Way outside, counts full.
Even Blue couldn't call that one, Pearl. Hey, we go in, base hit down, ball 4, here we go. Everybody's moving on the pitch.
Florida already 2 runs in this inning, looking for more. Wilkie bloops it up into shallow left. And ranging back, Chanel makes the squeeze, and that retires the side. So the Gators send 7, they get 2 runs, and we're going to the second in Gainesville. Florida on top. We go to the second inning in Gainesville. North Florida back to the plate. Gators get 2 runs in the home half of the first inning. One off of a hit by pitch, and the other a sacrifice fly. The second from Cheyenne Lindsay. Paige Fent leads things off, and an aggressive swing right out of the gate for strike 1. And Francesca at North Florida looking for a response. Fent's a great candidate to do it. Had the solo shot last night for the Ospreys. But you want to get a response quickly when you go down 2-0 early.
And it doesn't always have to be response with a home run or response with another run. Obviously, that's what you would love to see. But at least just having strong at-bats, putting pressure on the pitcher, putting pressure on the defense. Just don't have easy at-bats. Challenge them. That's the type of response the Ospreys need to have right now.
Lugo tries to get her to chase. It's a little wide outside, ball 1. Paige Fent is a leadoff hitter this year, .571 average. So .548 slugging as well. The 1-2. Fent flails through air for strike 3. It's a drop third strike. Wilkie onto Wallace, and there's 1 out.
That's that changeup that Lugo has that is just so lethal when she is able to change that speed about 10 miles per hour less than her curveball or her rise ball. You take a look how it just drops in perfect location. Fent has no way to try to get to that.
Fent went 2 for 3 last night with a single and a homer. Strikes out in her first at-bat on the road tonight. Haley Bignaro up. Arano, excuse me, the UCF transfer bounces it wide of the bag, and that's a foul. Went 0 for 2, did have a sac bunt last night. Had a 2 for 4 night against NC State, and what is the only other loss North Florida has had this year. This team was very close to being undefeated going into last night. Right back to Lugo, and there's 2 down. They went to extra innings with NC State thanks to a late rally from the Wolfpack. And when we talked to Coach Higgs, you know, that was a learning experience for this team about how to weather through that adversity. And then when they went into extra innings against Michigan State, they pulled out the win and some early growth for North Florida.
And exactly, being able, like I mentioned earlier, trying to slow the pace of the game down, not allowing the team to feel like they're still hanging in there. And that happens when you feel this. It's the hardest thing to describe. You feel this sudden energy shift where all of a sudden you were in charge of this game, then the energy starts slipping towards the other side, and the next thing you know, it's a tie ball game. Being able to control that power is huge. And it's by getting quick early outs. It's by not allowing the opponent to think they still have a chance. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's the kind of thought process you have to have in thinking, no way is this team going to think that they still have a chance. And that's what they learned against Michigan State.
1-1 is snubbed to second. Adams, Wallace side retired. So once again, the Ospreys go down in order. It's been 6 straight retired by this Florida club after the leadoff walk to start the day. And we're going to the home half of the second. Gators still on top by 2. We're moving quickly here in the home second. First pitch already away to Sarah Longley, who leads off for the Gators. 8, 9, and 1 scheduled in this inning. Blooper is short, and there's 1 down. So Allie Ahrens out of Phoenix, Arizona, transferred from UNLV to this North Florida program. Throws more up in the zone. What can we expect from her, Francesca?
Yeah, she's really been able to be this other arm from the bullpen to eat up some innings. Someone who's going to sit somewhere between 58, 60 miles per hour. But just like you mentioned, very up in the zone, slow and spinny. She primarily throws a rise ball, but also has a curveball that has slight upspin. So if you're a batter trying to sit on that rise and not be baited at it, her curveball can still be for a strike.
Adams takes off speed for ball 2. We mentioned before that Ahrens got both starts of the doubleheader against Michigan State, pitched 12 1/3 that day. Gels bounces it to second, and just in time for the out as Gels gets tripped up at the end of the play.
Almost looks like she might have hurt herself pretty bad on that one because she was trying to extend out to be safe at first base and almost awkwardly hit the bag, trying to beat that throw out. You can see the frustration from her.
And half running off under her own power, looking back at it.
You see she really tries to get to that bag and rolls her right ankle.
It looked like she tweaked her ankle on that last step on the outside of the bag, just slipped a little bit.
This never feels good. Hopefully she'll be able to come back out.
2 retired quickly, brings in Kendra Falby. Reached on a single and scored the run in the opening frame.
Honestly, too, if the pitcher Ahrens did not just tip that ball, that was going to be a single. But her just being able to get some leather assisted it to the second baseman, Reichert.
And we were to that point about Ahrens. She started both games of the doubleheader. And Coach Higgs said they were ready to pull her at the first sign of trouble in the second game, but she never got it in. He was very confident and phenomenal is the word she used to describe her performance that day. Trying to be phenomenal today for North Florida.
I always love that as a player when your coach, tells you something, maybe says, hey, I don't think you have this. I don't know if you have this. Is where I see you. And then that player shows them, watch this. And then really surprises them and earns more innings and earns more at-bats. And I just love that response.
Takes a strike on 3-0.
How was you back there? Come on. You call that a ball? Here we go, Kendra. Here we go.
Only allowed a pair of unearned runs and 6 hits in game 2. 3 up and 3 down for the Gators. Falby is retired 4-3, and we are 2 completing Gainesville. It's still the Gators up by 2 as we go to the 3rd here from KSP. Gators out to a 2-0 lead as we go to the top of the 3rd. Florida 10-time participants of the Women's College World Series. Plenty of trips to Oklahoma City under Coach Tim Walton, 10 to be exact. Bottom of the order due up for North Florida. Natalie Lugo is back in the circle for the Gators. And Francesca, when you talk to people around the softball world and you ask them, what's the difference in those teams that get to Oklahoma City? And one of the things that's typically a common theme is pitching depth and having a lot of good arms, reliable arms, all-American type arms to make it to the Women's College World Series and be a contender to win the national title.
I mean, when you look at the offensive growth over the last 10 years, it has swayed heavily to hitters just constantly getting better and being able to make pitch-by-pitch adjustments. So you just cannot rely on one strong pitcher or even 2 strong pitchers. You need to have 3, 4. And when we talk about pitch by committee, you're talking about a pitcher maybe starting 2 innings, 3 innings with a rise ball primarily, and then you bring in another pitcher who's going to be a drop ball pitcher, because the best teams, the best players make those pitch by pitch adjustments. They make batter by batter adjustments. And they just cannot keep seeing that same look.
Turgo takes strike 1 on 3-0. Natalie Lugo, very experienced pitcher for Florida. They've got a lot of great arms on this team. Elizabeth Hightower, of course, an All-American. Lexi Delbray has been a breakout freshman for the Gators. That's ball 4. Will be a walk to Turgo to start the top of the 3rd. And of course, Riley Trilchek comes back, a ground ball pitcher similar to what they had with Katie Chronister last year. Didn't get as many opportunities, but Riley Trilchek threw a no-hitter in her first season in 2020 in that abbreviated year. And this Florida team, when you look at the staff this year, they have the makeup of that kind of team that can make it to Oklahoma City. Annette lays down a bunt. Eccles will go for the lead runner, and she's got her. They try to turn 2, and it's just not in time. So Annette reaches, Turgo is retired, and there's 1 gone.
Again, just such strong, sure defense that you can always depend on with Florida. You had Annette wanting to put that sack bunt down. You're trying to move your runner over into scoring position, but the bunt was way too hard. Rule of thumb, if it's a 1-hop to you, you always look for that lead runner.
Hedley Reichert comes up, the Colorado native. And she takes strike 1 on the first pitch from Lugo. Reichert made her first appearance off the bench against Winthrop and hit a 2-run triple in the 6th that ended the game in run rule fashion. Since has been a more regular starter in this lineup. And a couple hits against Michigan State, including a double in the last game of that weekend. Went 0 for 3 last night with a strikeout. He's looking for a bounce-back day today. And Hadley is the only freshman on this team. We mentioned this roster only has 1 true freshman. They added 5 transfers in the offseason. The 2-1. It's fouled off of home plate, levels the count.
It's got to love that transfer portal now.
Right.
Making it so easy to transfer.
It's changed everything. And you think about roster management from a coach's standpoint, it's enormously difficult because you have to balance pulling from the high school ranks and continuing to bring in new players to develop year in and year out, but you also both give and take from the portal. Out to Eccles, there's one, and there's two. Second double play of the night for Florida, and that retires the side. 3 innings and only 9 sent to the plate for North Florida. Home half of the third, coming up on the other side. Great crowd in KDC Show Presley tonight. 2-0 lead for the hometown Gators as we go to the home half of the third inning. Adams leads off for Florida, 2, 3, and 4 scheduled. Wallace and Eccles as well in this inning. For Florida, this is something they didn't have all of last season until about the home stretch and into the postseason, was full capacity crowds and having all of the energy capable at KDC Show Presley Stadium, and that levels it 1-1. And it's nice to have some return to normalcy this season.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Especially even seeing some of the tournaments early on. They just had the Clearwater Elite. They didn't have that last year. Just being able to feel that passion and the support from your fans is incredible. And you always feel like you get just a little bit more from them when they are loud and electric.
Adams loops it down the left field line, and that'll be a base hit for number 1. Second time she's reached tonight.
I mean, how good is Hannah Adams to where you even get singles when you get jammed?
Yeah.
I mean, take a look at this. She gets this ball basically on the handle, does not get extended at all. But because of the defensive shift, you had the left fielder Glover pinching that left field gap that's going to drop in for a single. She's going to take it.
Every time. Adams on board with the leadoff single, already itching to jump off of first base as it's strike 1 to Wallace. And you mentioned, traveling to some of those smaller invitationals in tournaments, or the bigger ones like the St. Pete Clearwater Elite Invitational. You think of the Mary Nutter Classic, that's coming up as well. Wallace takes high as Adams threatens from first. And, how does playing in those environments where things are a little bit closer and just a little bit more neutral compared to playing on your home field or going on the road in the SEC?
Well, I think there's one or two thoughts there. I think one is it's so important to play in, tournaments like Clearwater or even like the Mary Nutter or just really any tournament or team to challenge yourself early on so that you can really figure out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and what's it going to look like when we do get to conference play. But then
reaches and takes a strike.
Sorry about that, Ryan. But then when you do come back to play, that midweek game or a tournament at home like Florida did, you start realizing what that scope of your fan support's going to be like. So it's twofold. You need to see the strength and see why you're challenging yourselves at those neutral spots, because that's how it's going to be at Oklahoma City. That's how it could potentially be if you go to a super regional when you're on the road. So you have to challenge yourself earlier in that sense.
The count's full on Wallace. Florida, of course, goes to Tampa every year to start the season, and they see Michigan typically week 1. That was a classic one. Gators won on a grand slam and an outstanding performance by the freshman Lexi Delbrin. Wallace swings at the payoff. That's just over the head of Coach Walton at third and stays full on her.
It looked like they had a hit and run going because that pitch was a little bit higher than Skylar Wallace's head, but still able to get her hands on top of it as you saw Adams in motion. So early on, you're seeing Coach Walton really put some runners in motion, try to manufacture some runs here, put pressure on the Ospreys.
Aaron's had a 1-2-3 inning last time up, give up a leadoff single to start the bottom of the third. Wallace roasts it through the right side, and that's the second base hit of the inning. Adams is thinking third, and she's there. Throw back to second, not in time. Great hitting, better base running. Second and third with nobody out.
Can I piggyback off that and say even better coaching? Because you had Coach Walton have Hannah Adams in motion on that play. She was stealing this bag. So the fact that Skylar Wallace was able to find a hole, you see Hannah Adams going, this is what gets her safely to third. And the throw going to third gets Wallace safely at second base. Of course her speed as well, but that all stems from putting Hannah Adams in motion on that swing.
You know, one of the storylines with this team is speed, and typically the first thing you think is Kendra Falby because of her out-of-this-world wheels, but Hannah Adams has fantastic speed in her own right.
And Skylar Wallace, right? Like those
That as
three in together, it's nuts. For lack of a better word, nuts.
Florida is a team currently top of the SEC in stolen bases. They're 25 on 28 attempts for 11 games. That's coming into tonight. It's ball 2 on Charlotte Eccles. North Florida last night was careful with her as well. Charlotte Eccles started on a little bit of a slump, broke out of that this past weekend at the T-Mobile tournament. Got her first home run of the season. Ball 3. And sometimes it's just a bit of a weight lifted off your shoulders, right? And you finally get that first home run.
And I always love, when you say, oh, Charlotte Eccles, she's in a slump. It's because you're so used to seeing her get a hit every single time. And that always adds to the pressure, too, the expectations. She was someone who only struck out twice last season. But we saw her strike out early on in that opening weekend, and that's very uncharacteristic of her. And, again, people were talking, is Eccles going to be okay? And it's, it's the first weekend. But let's get things in motion. Let's get people starting feeling comfortable.
And it's worth noting as well, she was battling through some injury bumps coming into the season. And that's ball 4. Bases are loaded for the Gators. Second time tonight. They've juiced them up.
And the second walk for Eccles, so seeing a lot of respect from Ahrens to Eccles, wanting to rather go pitch up against Reagan Walsh, the freshman, versus the All-American Eccles.
Pitch around her there, but she had a place to put Eccles. And this is quite the jam for Ahrens in North Florida. Gators a 2-0 lead, not insurmountable, but Florida with the opportunity to blow it wide open. And that'll be strike 1 on Reagan Walsh. Was in a bases loaded scenario last time she was up at the plate and brought in a run off of the hit by pitch. Walsh drives it to right field. That's down. We'll bring it at least 2. Green light around third for Eccles as well. The relay not in time. Bases clearing double for Reagan Walsh, and the Gators are up 5-0.
Reagan Walsh just finding her spot in the Gators lineup so well as a freshman. This is a big-time hit. You talk so much about the power she has. You talked about that grand slam she had. But in this at-bat, she's able to send this ball right in that right center field gap. A huge open gap, not expecting that power hitter being able to go the other way. And again, the speed we talk about, being able to utilize that speed and have that bases clearing double. Charlotte Eccles trying to get her breath all the way from first base to home.
Long run for the Gator third baseman, but she's in, and Florida's got a 5-0 lead. First pitch to Lindsay was a ball. Lindsay puts down a bunt right back towards the circle, and Annette's throw gets away. Reagan Walsh will go from third. She'll score, and the Gators are up 6-0. Miscues were such a problem for North Florida last night, and they rear their head again.
We were talking earlier about not allowing the other team to control the pace, to put that type of pressure on you, but that's exactly what Florida's doing right now against UNF. They get to bases loaded, you have a big double that scores 3 runs, and then Cheyenne Lindsay puts the pressure with small ball, surprises the corners. And that was the only throw the third baseman Arnett had to try to throw on the run. So these are not easy plays. Florida is definitely trying to control this tempo and control this game, as you're going to see head coach Marcy Higgs come out and talk to her pitcher.
So it's a bunt single for Lindsay, and we'll have a pitching change in Gainesville. Aaron's day is done. We'll step aside. Gators up 6-0 at home. Izzy Kelly will step into the game as Aaron tonight is done for the moment. She exits the game after giving up 6 runs, bottom third, and nobody gone. Florida breaking this thing wide open. And for Izzy Kelly, the James Madison transfer, Francesca, what can we expect from her?
Yeah, the good thing for Izzy Kelly is that her pitcher previously, Haley Aarons, is someone who throws mainly up, but Izzy Kelly's primarily going to be down, drop ball with a curveball, really east and west. So she's trying to get that ball right underneath those kneecaps of the Gators. Going to be a very different look who they just saw that was primarily up.
So Lindsay at first base with a bunt single. It was ruled as an E5 on a net. So an unearned run for Florida as Walsh comes home to score. And puts Florida up 6-0 just before the pitching change. Emily Wilkie trying to tag on to that. Nobody out in the 0-2. That's high. Lindsay's going to go for second, and on a headfirst dive, she's in. Another stolen base for Florida.
Did we also mention that Cheyenne Lindsay's really fast? I think we did talk about her at the Open. There are not very many slow Gator players here as Cheyenne Lindsay taking advantage of her speed, and why not?
Third stolen base tonight for Florida. And Wilkie facing 1 and 2. Now a runner in scoring position. On a level. And this Florida team, if you look at them where they rank in the SEC right now, they're top of the league tied in hits. Their OBP is through the roof. It's top 10 nationally. But they're on the lower end of the league in doubles and home runs. Wilkie rockets the 2-2 out of play. Now, they are among the leaders in triples, but ultimately what I'm getting at is that this Florida team utilizes that speed to their advantage a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they're leading, I don't think you mentioned it, but they're leading the SEC in stolen bases as well. So it's crazy to see the difference of, some of the teams that you've seen previously for the Gators with so much power, so much doubles. But now you're seeing just a ton of speed, a ton of stolen bases. Obviously from Falby, because we said she's crazy fast, but it just continues to go down that lineup with Wallace. You have Lindsay, Eccles. I'm sure I'm missing someone.
2-2, trampoline back to the circle, and they get the force out for Wilkie. Lindsay's going to scoot to third. A productive ground out for the Gators. It's the first out of the inning.
And that's a big out for UNF. They needed to get an out after having the Gators score 4 runs in this inning so far.
Brings in Sarah Longley, who's in the DH spot for Florida tonight. Comes in just a little bit tight. And in the press conferences, Coach Walton talking about Sarah Longley's role this season. She was the everyday shortstop last year. Reagan Walsh has assumed those duties this year for Florida. And Coach Walton wants to keep her involved. Saw some of her at short through the first 11 games of the season. And see her at the plate tonight in this DH spot. And keeping her experience, getting those game reps, and keeping her in rhythm is important, because one injury, one tweak, and all of a sudden there's some reconfiguration of the infield. Oh, 1-1.
nice.
Longley takes outside for ball 2.
Hey, easy to spot, 7, easy to spot. Now you go. Come on, Sarah.
Longley has 3 hits this season, 1 against Jacksonville, had 2 hits against Villanova this past weekend.
Hey, 1 spot now. Here we go. Hit it hard. That's all right.
Fouls it off the instep.
She's all right. Man, trainer's quick. Don't hit the trainer. All right. Good quickness. I like it.
And Longley came through at times last year.
Out there. Boom.
Had her first home run down the stretch of that season. Drove in the game-winning RBI against Alabama in Game 1. Off of a single in the second inning. That was a huge series for Florida in the regular season last year. Runner at the doorstep, 2-2 from Kelly. And the count will run full on Longley. It's been a good disciplined at-bat from Longley so far.
Base hit, ball 4 now. Let's go, kid. Hey, good spot. Now, here we go. Attaway, good job.
Fouls it off again into the screen.
Go, Sarah.
Lindsay Kelly pitched a third of an inning late last night against the Gators. What was the last third of that game? Reaches for the 3-2 and fouls it off as well.
Hey, win the at bat. Now, here we go. Win this pitch, 5-2. Win this pitch. Here we go.
Longley's got her first RBI of the season, waiting on third if she can get the ball into the right spot.
One that matters. Base hit, ball four. Let's go.
Payoff again. Longley parachutes it to left center. Harper makes the squeeze. Lindsay's coming from third, no chance, and the Gators are up 7-0. First RBI of the season for Sarah Longley off the sac fly.
You know, someone like Sarah Longley maybe doesn't boast the highest batting average, but she has some of the surest at-bats. She's able to take a lot of bad pitches, and she's always able to execute pitches that are in the zone, just like this one. Being able to hit this deep enough to score Lindsay safely from third base, just a straight-up tag play that no matter how fast Cheyenne Lindsay is, that runner's going to be safe.
And this is good news for Gator fans. Avery Gels is up at the plate after going limping to the dugout earlier in the game off of a ground out. Her foot kind of tweaked on the bag, and she's toughing it out for the Gators.
There we go, Gators. Keep pouring it on. Now let's go. 2-out hits. Wins game. Every day. Foul ball.
And they probably put a whole bunch of ankle tape all over that. Loads of it, I bet.
Well, that's just part of the game too, right? Is fighting through those bumps and bruises along the way that you're gonna accrue. And one of the things that Coach Walton and coaches, will talk about is staying disciplined with going to training and getting treatment and staying on top of that stuff so you can keep your body in the best shape possible to perform week in and week out, because it's a long season. It's a grind for these players.
Yeah, and the moments where you really have to grind it out and where that type of grit comes is later on in postseason, where, hopefully you don't make it into the loser's bracket, and you have to try to fight your way out of that, and it's emotionally draining.
Gels hack and a miss. That's strike three, and it retires the side. First strikeout for North Florida pitching tonight, and first for Kelly. We go to the fourth. Florida up 7-0 over UNF. Gators score 5 runs, 4 earned in that prior inning, 4 hits and an error, nobody left on, and they're up 7-0 with Natalie Lugo back in the circle. First pitch swinging for a foul, and it'll be 0-1 on leadoff hitter Kayla Harper. So this is the second time through the order Natalie Lugo is not allowed a hit so far. It has been only 3 that have gotten sent to the plate. She has walked 2, but the Gators have turned a pair of double plays. It's 0-2. When Natalie Lugo is at her best, what's she doing right?
She's able to work ahead. When she's able to get ahead and command that curveball in that back door, that's when she's able to start using that changeup a little bit more and getting those type of swings and misses. She tends to get into trouble when she falls behind and then isn't able to really command that changeup.
Fades to the box, cuts and misses, strike 3, drop third strike, completes the K to Wallace, and there's one down. Natalie Lugo, her second strikeout tonight.
And getting this second strikeout with this drop ball, not a pitch we see normally from her, but loving staying down in the zone, how it just peels off that table.
Brings in McGorry, grounded into a double play. Or excuse me, grounded out her last time off. No, Adam Flip did ground into a double play. Scoring is hard sometimes.
I agree. Reading's hard too.
McGorry tries to bunt on 1-0, evens the count.
Especially when the game is moving fast like this one, sometimes you can't keep your scorebook together.
They're too quick for us up here. Moving and grooving down there. Now, Kayla McGorry, who you see there, somebody who Coach Hicks said It's the kind of player you wish you had 20 like her.
That was yesterday.
Just got a great mentality at the plate for North Florida. 1-1, cut and a miss. Real anchor for this team. We mentioned her battle back from injury.
Swing and a miss. Now what are we going to do?
And fought through a lot last year. Was mainly the designated player. Through all of last year, still managed to hit 256. 11 extra base hits, but she strikes out here. Second K of the inning for Lugo, third overall tonight.
Tag out, throw out.
Natalie Lugo. I'm loving this drop ball right now, Ryan. Look at this ball. That is right at the start of the kneecaps and just falls off that table. That's not a pitch that we normally see in her repertoire, so that is a deadly pitch.
Swing and a miss of the first offering to Shannon Glover. This is the second time through the order for UNF, and if they're going to get something going against Lugo, what do they need to adjust at the plate?
Well, I think right now we're seeing a lot more drop balls being thrown from Lugo. When you look at her scouting report, when you look at video, you see more curve, you see more up, you see more change. I don't think that they were prepared to see more balls lower in that zone. So you're seeing a lot of barrels going over the top of that ball.
Fast to short, fielded well by Walsh, and it's on to Wallace for the third out of the inning. 4 in the books for the Gator defense. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Lugo, and she's got a no-hitter going as we go to the bottom of the 5th. Gators back to the plate when we return. Florida up by a touchdown, metaphorically speaking. Number 4 Gators rolling against North Florida. Second of 2 this week. They won 7-1 last night. Only 2 earned runs in that contest. 1 error tonight. It's been all the Florida bats that have put things up as Kendra Falby takes inside for ball 1. And on the note of Falby, Coach Walton, in one of his press conferences, was asked about Falby as a player and her confidence, what makes her such an effective hitter in terms of her personality. And Coach Walton said she's got a lot of confidence. She really doesn't lack there. And she carries herself in a way that's not arrogant or cocky, but is just consistent. And that kind of demeanor is what makes her such a good hitter.
I think she's just someone that knows how talented she is, and she knows what she possesses, and she's able to execute with those strengths. You know, she knows her zone. She knows how to read the defense. She knows when to try to put a bunt down, when to slap, when to maybe just swing away. And she's confident in each and every one of those aspects. You know, anytime you have any doubt that slips in, that's when you start to lose that confidence and you're less successful. But she knows who she is.
Falby slaps it high into the screen. And the other thing he talked about was that when they first got Kendra Falby on campus, you know, she didn't swing away. She was a pure slap bunter, swing down chop, a lot of strikeouts in her travel balls in the summer. And all the power and extra base hits she had is something that they didn't really see before. And when they got her in the cages, you know, Coach Thomas, the hitting coach, said to Coach Walton, you know, she could hit 300 standing in, not even slapping. This one will one hop back to Kelly, and that is the first out of the inning. Kendra Falby, just one more note about her. Her on-base streak is out to 12 with the single earlier tonight. She reached in every game this season. But grounds out here, first out of the inning, brings in Hannah Adams.
You know, I think that's a big reason, too, why, you know, recruits are so attracted to wanting to come to Florida. Yes, it's this championship, this winning program that they have. Like, who wouldn't want to come play here because of that? But really, it's because of how you're going to grow as a player. Coach Thomas, and Coach Wallen are known to be such great coaches, and someone that's really going to challenge you to grow. Cannot just see how good of a player you are right now, but to see what type of potential you have and where they can carry you. So yeah, Falby comes in as just a predominantly slap hitter, but because they have such a strong coaching staff, it can really bring the best out of their players. You see them grow and you see them elevate their game. One of my favorite Coach Walton quotes is, let's not just work on your faults. Let's not just try to make your faults better. Let's strengthen your strengths, and then we'll carry your weaknesses along too.
Coach Walton, one of the best to ever do it, 2-time national champion. Adams whacks it into center field, but Harper racing in, squeezes it on the run for the second out of the inning. It was a good hit, or excuse me, good contact from Hannah Adams, but Harper makes a nice play in center for the Ospreys.
And that's just how this game goes, right? The single that Hannah had in her last at-bat, she got jammed, and it just so happened to find some land. And then, of course, this one, she smokes it, but right at someone. That's just softball.
That's how it goes sometimes. We'll play the middle infield wide on Wallace. Has a single and a run scored so far tonight. And she'll take strike one. 2 up and 2 down in these home fourth for the Gators. Everybody up at the plate in a 7-0 margin represents would be the run rule territory run. That's in for ball one. And Skylar Wallace, she didn't play last year for Florida because of transfer rules. But getting her this season, a huge addition for Florida. Not just with her bat, but what she does defensively in that infield. And Florida, they're known for their strong defense. Pitching and defense is always some of the first words from Coach Walton that you hear, and that legacy just continues. The rich get richer. They get Skylar Wallace from an SEC rival. And Florida, once again, just lights out across the infield. Wallace sitting at first this season. And she gets hit on the elbow. First in the SEC and hit by pitches. She's got another. That's her 6th of the season, and she's aboard with 2 gone.
I mean, you can go on and on why Skylar Wallace is as good as she is, but one of the things that I love the most about her is her energy. When you look at the Gators infield, there's a lot of quiet leaders out there with Eccles and Walsh and Hannah Adams, but Skylar Wallace is that loud presence, that person who's going to corral them up, who's going to be patting everyone on the back, and I love the dynamic that she brings into that squad.
All-American Charlotte Eccles is up. First pitch, Wallace goes, and she's in well in time. No chance for Fent to get it to Chanel. And it's yet another stolen base tonight. Make it 4 for the Gators.
Hey, drive them in now, Charlotte. Here we go. 2 out. 2 out hits. Wins game. Every day that ends in a Y.
There's one thing you can say about the 2022 Gators. They're not shy on the base paths.
How about Wednesday? Is that in the Y? Okay, then we're good.
And when Skylar Wallace decided to come to Florida, I think everyone thought, okay, she's going to be the #1 base stealer. She's going to be the fastest one. And then in comes freshman Kendra Falby. Those two together, in the fall alone, they combined for 30 stolen bases, which really set that tone for what we were going to see this spring season. And we're seeing it, and we're seeing it from other Gators too.
That's tight on Charlotte Eccles. Nearly nicked her. And it's 3-0.
This is Charlotte Eccles' 3rd at-bat where she has barely seen a strike. This ball almost hitting her. And that is so frustrating as a hitter when all you want to do is swing away. And sometimes you try to chase pitches.
Just dips into the outside corner. And that was the other thing about sort of the slump she had at the beginning of the year, is that opposing pitchers don't typically offer a lot to hit to Charlotte Eccles because they know if you leave something hanging against 4, there's a pretty good chance it's getting sent to the next zip code.
Exactly. And, soon I'm going to force you to stop saying slump. Because, she was just the first week of season.
And a rise ball will put Charlotte Eccles aboard. 2 on with 2 out for the orange and blue.
But you're right. It is extremely hard when you are used to seeing pitches, used to seeing strikes, and then all of a sudden you're that player that has the biggest target on your back, and they don't want to pitch to you. Sometimes you try to force it to happen.
The walk brings in Reagan Walsh, had a bases clearing double, and another RBI is signed on a hit by pitch tonight. That's 4 ribbies. Believe it or not, that is not a season high for the freshman. First pitch swinging and lines it to right field, gets past Turgo, and the 8th run of the day will come in as Wallace is plated. Eccles to 3rd. It's a double for Walsh, her 2nd of the night.
I mean, if you are a Florida Gator fan, this is what you love to see. A freshman like Reagan Walsh really establishing herself in this lineup. And if I'm an opponent against the Gators, one thing that I know is that I am not going to pitch the ball outside to Walsh, because that seems to be her sweet zone. Just loves going opposite field and is not afraid to do it.
The second two-bagger tonight for Reagan Walsh. Cheyenne Lindsay to the plate, and the Gators are officially in run rule territory. An outside corner strike for Lindsay on the first offering from Kelly. Already had some history last night when Cheyenne Lindsay hit 2 triples. It's just been an extra base hit kind of week for Florida. Second and third, a little 2-out magic for Florida in this inning. That goes into outer space over the noggin to Lindsay. 2-1. Florida grounded out and lined out to start this inning. And then those free passes gave way to an opportunity. A hit by pitch put on Skylar Wallace, then Eccles walked, and Reagan Walsh comes through 5 ribbies tonight. Just one shy of that aforementioned season high of 6. Clubbed into shallow center, a diving catch from Harper. And that will retire the side. My goodness, what a web gem. For completing Gainesville, the Gators get another run. They're officially in run rule territory. Last chance for the Ospreys to get some runs when we come back.
Just on fire in the circle tonight. We said this is her drop ball. Is it her changeup? It is both. It is just a pitch that she's been working on all fall and starting to see so much success with this pitch. Her changeup that has this drop spin. She's always had a strong changeup, but now adding this drop spin to it, it's about 5 to 7 miles per hour different than her curveball, and we are seeing these successes from it tonight.
Natalie Lugo, a chance for the no-hitter in the top of the 5th. Gators up 8-0. This would be a little bit of deja vu. It was on this field about 2 years ago when Natalie Lugo spun a no-hitter against Jacksonville University, another team from the River City. In her career, also combined for a no-no against Boise State in 2019. That was in 5 innings as well. And that's 2-0. It is Paige Fent leading it off. It's a good candidate to break that up. That's way tight for ball 3. UNF has only had 10 at-bats tonight. Only reached 3 times one fielder's choice and a couple of walks. And that's ball 4, so it's a leadoff base runner for the Ospreys. And maybe just being a little bit careful with Paige Fent, considering she solo homered off of Lexi Delbray, who nearly had a no-hitter against Michigan.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. Just trying to be careful to the one player that has seemed to square up some good balls from yesterday's game going into today's. And when you're dealing the way that Lugo is, you can have that type of swag, that type of confidence to just say, you know, I'm going to go after the next batter.
Fent is on for North Florida. Brings in Bejarano. First pitch, swing and a miss. Softball runs in the family. Her mother, Vicky, played at New Mexico State. Her father, Brian, played professional baseball in the Padres and Blue Jays organization. Brother, Bradley, plays baseball for Glendale Community College. Nice changeup, 0-2.
One more of those would be just fine, thank you.
Bejarano swing and a miss on 0-2. 4th strikeout tonight for Natalie Lugo.
And that's what we were talking about. Why force pitching to one of the deadliest batters in this lineup when you can show back up and then just go right at the next batter.
You are next.
Florida chance at some history in the midweek. And the first pitch is in a little bit tight to Chanel.
Couldn't have missed by much if you wanted to swing. Here we go, Nat. Here we go, kid. Ground ball right at somebody. Hard, just take
Comes
it.
in for a strike. Savannah Chanel,
Good save. That away.
0 for 1 tonight
1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
on an 0 for 20 skid to start the season. Has been walked 6 times and scored a couple of runs, including 2 walks yesterday. Great pitch, swing and a miss, 1 and 2.
Another big swing and a miss. That's all right. All you got to do is miss that one more time. Here we go. Repeat that same swing. Here we go.
Nubber back towards Lugo. Going to make the long throw to first. Wallace just grabs it. And the Gators 1 out away from a victory.
Lugo helping herself out there.
We have a pinch runner for North Florida.
Hey, here we go, Nat. Here we go, kid.
That is London pinch running for the Ospreys. Florida is 1 out away from a no-hitter. Turgo comes to the plate. Ospreys down to their final out. And it's strike 1 on the outside corner. That pitch count only at 55 for number 10.
Good block. That away.
Count is even, 1 and 1.
That's why you work when nobody's on. Good job. That way, hip. Ground ball right at somebody. Now that-
1-1 is popped up right side. Wallace makes the squeeze, and that's the ball game. Natalie Lugo has spun a no-hitter. A 5-inning gem for number 10, and the Gators take it 8-0. And they win both games of the home and home against UNF.
What a great showing for the Gators in this midweek matchup, offensively, but more importantly in the circle with Natalie Lugo. Not just getting the win, but getting that no-hitter, executing her pitches, and having confidence in her changeup.
The second complete game no-no for Natalie Lugo. Her last came on this field against Jacksonville in 2020. So a little deja vu for Natalie Lugo, and she was outstanding tonight. That drop ball was really working.
And we talked about it at the Open, this senior veteran leadership that Lugo possesses, and now add in this amazing changeup with this drop movement. The Ospreys just could not figure out the correct adjustment to just how do we get our barrel underneath this ball. And Lugo, you have to give her so much credit for